Hi, I'm Mark, this is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I'm going to bring you guys a comparison video looking at the Simple Slim series and the Ultion Nuki smart locks. Now both of these locks are multi-point door compatible smart locks, and these are pretty difficult to find. And if you're not quite sure what a multi-point door is, it's basically the sort of lock we have on a lot of doors in the UK. So if you've got a more modern composite door or a UPVC door where you have to lift your handle in order to lock it, that is a multi-point door. And really, if you're looking at multi-point compatible smart locks, you've really got a choice between the Yale Connexes, the Ultion Nuki, the locked smart lock which has just launched in the UK, and the Simple Slim series. Now for the last few weeks I have had the Simple Slim series on my back door. And then if you've been on this channel for a while, you'll know that for about 6 months now, I've also had the Ultion Nuki on my front door. So what I thought I'd do is do a comparison of these two for you guys. I'll also do a video in the future where I break down all of the available multi-point smart locks for you guys. Let's kick off with a comparison of the Ultion Nuki and the Simple Slim series. And I want to start off by talking about price. So the Ultion Nuki is a package costing £260. If you want to get the bridge as well, then that's an extra £89. The bridge is certainly something required for Android users, however if you're an Apple user you may not need it thanks to its HomeKit compatibility. You can also get the Ultion Nuki Plus package which has an extra colour variant and costs £360. The Nuki Pro included with that basically includes the bridge functionality built into the lock itself and a rechargeable battery pack. The Simple lock on the other hand costs between £160 and £220 depending on if you can find a good offer out there. They quite regularly have sales on Amazon, so you'll never need to pay more than £200 for it. If you want the optional bridge which gives you voice assistant and remote access, that's another £50 on top. This of course, as you probably worked out, makes the Simple lock more affordable, especially when you take into account that bridge. So what about design? Which one looks best and how do they differ? So when it comes to design, both of these have different designs because they work in different ways. So with the Ultion Nuki, you retain your existing outside handle and you're just given a new indoor handle. Depending on if you go for the Plus package or not, this is probably going to be white, but with the Plus you can also choose a black one. This is a premium feeling, well-made handle that is designed to fit the Nuki smart lock perfectly. The Nuki does stick out a bit from your front door, but personally I think it looks quite nice. With the Simple Slim series you can choose between black and silver. Personally I think the black looks better, but both are very similar in look. Both also come with new parts for both the inside and outside of your door. These parts have rounded edges and look really nice. They also feel really well made as well. For the Simple, the outside also has a fingerprint sensor on, a keypad and a space to wave a fob. This obviously changes the look of it. All in all I think both look really nice, but I actually think the Simple has a better design here. In part this is because you get a nice new outside handle as well. So what about specification and what's built into these devices? So if you use the bridge, both allow you to remotely lock your door when you're not at home. If you're a Nuki user with an Apple TV or an iPad or something that operates as your Apple Home Hub, you don't actually need the bridge to achieve this remote functionality. Both have Apple and Android and Apple Watch apps you can use to lock and unlock your door. The Nuki also supports geolocation. This means it can automatically unlock your door based on your location when you get home. It doesn't have an automatic lock-in feature, which is a shame, but you can achieve this using the Apple Home app if you really want to. The Simple Slim series doesn't have a geolocation feature, but this is largely because of the way it's designed to work. And actually that outside part of the lock has a whole variety of ways you can unlock it. This includes an NFC sensor, a keypad for putting in passcodes, and a fingerprint sensor. This means you can easily just get home and open it with one of those methods or using the app. In terms of battery life, both run on 4 AA batteries. Now Nuki say you should get 6 months out of it, whereas Simple don't commit to how long you'll get out of it. Of course battery life varies on a lot of things, in part the quality of batteries you're putting in, but also how often you're using the device. Both locks also support shared access, and this is done in different ways, but both allow you to share access depending on different times of day or different days of a week. Of course the Simple lock has the advantage that you can assign people passcodes and people can just use those. This also means the person who needs access to your house doesn't need to download an app to access it. With Nuki however, whoever has access will need to have the Nuki app. Of course if you've got the bridge for both of these, you can share access remotely. With the Simple, this includes being able to set up passcodes when you're away from home. When it comes to security, the Ultion Nuki comes with an Ultion 3-star cylinder lock. And then Nuki itself has the same encryption as your online banking. This makes communication super secure. Simple, on the other hand, don't really share any information in terms of the security credentials of their product or app. app Simpod uses, however, is an app called TT Lock. And this isn't an app exclusive to them. This is basically a smart lock platform people can buy into. This means if you're a company who want to set up a smart lock, you don't have to worry about creating a whole new app. You can just use the infrastructure provided by TT Lock. This is actually really good for users. So this is Editor Mark here with an update on the security credentials of the Simpod Smart Lock, because I reached out to Simpod and said did they have any information, and they got back to me a little bit after I'd filmed the video. So the TT Lock has Bluetooth 5 built in. This is for the gateway and the lock itself. And then in terms of encryption, it uses WPA2 encryption with AES 128-bit encryption. That means it is pretty secure, and that is the same for the actual lock and the gateway, so both of them use that level of encryption. In terms of the actual handle, there are no certifications for the handle itself, although this is something Simpod are looking into. Continuing on with specification, both locks are compatible with UK multi-point doors, which is fantastic, and the Nuki, when it unlocks, can also release that last little catch. That means if you've got a lock that requires you to turn that key that last little bit after unlocking, the Nuki does work with that. Now the Simpod still works with that, but that's because it works in a slightly different way. And let me explain what I mean by that. So the Ultion Nuki basically works the same way as if you had a key in your door all the time. That means when you leave and lift the handle up and press the lock function in the Nuki app, inside it basically turns that lock for you using the built-in motor. The Simpod Smart Lock, on the other hand, basically detaches your handle from the lock and the catch, and when you install it you remove the existing cylinder. What that means in practice is that with the Simpod Smart Lock your door is basically always locked unless you use the unlock functionality, at which point the outside handle can be lifted down to get in. Of course, it is recommended that you still lift the handle up to engage those multi-points, just because that adds extra security. What this means in practice is that in theory the Simpod Smart Lock is always locked unless you unlock it, whereas the Ultion Nuki requires you to lift the handle and run the lock command. All in all, in terms of specification, both actually have very different ways of being smart locks. And really both locks work with multi-point doors and they work well. The one thing I would say is that I think the Ultion Nuki has the advantage here thanks to its security credentials. So what about installation? Now the Ultion Nuki boasts a 10-minute install time compared to a 45 to 90-minute install time for the Simpod Slim series. In practice, I found that installing the Ultion Nuki took me about 15 minutes just because I had to make a couple of the holes on my door slightly bigger. It was, however, a really simple process and just involved removing my existing cylinder, putting a new one in, and then putting that new handle on the inside. And then of course that handle has the perfect mount for the Nuki. The Slim series, however, was a bit trickier to install and took me between an hour and a quarter and an hour and a half in total. It involved making some extra holes in the door, trying to work out where to put the cable, and just trying to work out how to get it all set up really. It's certainly something for the more competent DIY in my opinion, but if you've got patience and you can plan, then you can do it. I do have installation videos for both locks on this channel and I will link those below. Once you've got them installed physically, you have to set them up in their respective apps. And the Simpod app is actually much quicker because you don't have to calibrate the lock the same way you do with the Ultion Nuki. Of course, with the Simpod Slim series, when you set it up in the app, you'll also want to set up some fingerprints and then also maybe some passcodes and some of those fobs that come with it. So most important thing in terms of comparison on this video is to say, well, what are they like to use on a daily basis? And as I said at the start, I've been using the Ultion Nuki for about 6 months, and I've been using the Simpod Slim series for about 3 weeks. And both of these locks work in slightly different ways, and so I'm going to talk about each of them separately for this part of the video. So firstly, let's talk about the Ultion Nuki. So the Ultion Nuki doesn't have an auto lock function based on geolocation. That means when you leave home, you will need to lift the handle up and then run the lock command. You can do this from your Apple Home app, from your watch, or even the Nuki app as well. They also have some widgets you can have on your iPhone home screen to toggle this nice and simply. Then when you're away from home, Apple users with HomeKit can actually access the status remotely in your Apple Home app. If you've got the bridge and you're an Android user or an Apple user, you can also see the status in the Nuki app. This means you can also remotely lock and unlock your door if you forgot to do it. That button on the Nuki itself has a double tap lock and go feature. This will basically unlock the door and give you about 20 seconds to get out and lift the handle before locking automatically. You can adjust this time in the app if you want to. The Nuki Bridge also gives you access to Google and Amazon voice assistants. That means you can ask the voice assistant to lock or unlock the door for you, but you do require a passcode to do that. This is for security, so someone can't open your letterbox and shout, "Amazon, open the door." A lot of this functionality is similar for unlocking as well, so you can press that button once from the inside to unlock, you can twist the knob on it to unlock, and you can use the geolocation features or your smartwatch app or phone or something like that to unlock it when you get home. Of course, with the Nuki you can also use a traditional key. This is great for less tech-savvy family members. This also means if the battery runs out and you miss the notification or forget to top up the batteries, you can still gain access using that key. Realistically, you get a notification about low battery with plenty of time to change those batteries. If you want to share access with the Ultion Nuki, you can do this via the Nuki app. You can restrict usage to certain times of day or certain days, which is particularly good for cat sitters or cleaners or that kind of thing. The person you're sharing access with, however, will need to download the Nuki app. In using the Ultion Nuki for about 6 months, I'd say all of those things work really well. So let's talk about using the simple smart lock. So the simple smart lock doesn't have or actually need geolocation features because there are so many different ways to open it from the outside with that handle. You can reach for your phone and unlock it with your phone or even your smartwatch, but actually you probably don't need to do that either. That's because there are NFC tags you can use with the front of it, you can use a passcode, or you can use a fingerprint. The fingerprint has been my preferred method just because it's really responsive and really quick. I do find that touch panel a little tricky to use just because they're not physical buttons. Of course, if you've got the optional gateway for the simple lock as well, you can unlock it and check the status remotely and also have access to logs. And again, you can use it with Amazon or Google Voice Assistant, which does require a PIN as well for security. You'll get a notification when battery life is getting low, but if you do find yourself in a situation where you have got yourself locked out with no battery, there is a micro USB port you can use for adding some extra charge in order to gain access. This can be done using a portable charger. There's also an emergency key that comes with it, which you can use from the outside as well. When it comes to sharing access with the Simpled, you can add extra admins if you want to, but the easiest way is to create a passcode you can share with them. These passcodes can grant permanent access during certain times of the day or certain days, or even just one-off ones. If you've got the gateway, you can also create these remotely. This means the person you're sharing access with doesn't need to download the Simpled app. The Simpled lock also has a tamper alarm on it. This means if someone tries to gain access by using a passcode and trying to guess it, it will set off a siren. This isn't massively loud, but it is enough to deter someone. When it comes to locking and unlocking, if you're coming from the inside to go out, you simply just pull down the handle and go. That's because the Simpled lock is effectively locked whenever the door is closed. And that's because that outside handle doesn't do anything unless you unlock it in one of the ways I've previously talked about. It is, however, recommended that you do lift the handle up from the inside or outside just to make sure the multi-point is engaged. This is good for extra security and really something you should be doing. The door is of course still locked even if you forget. When it comes to the apps for both smart locks, both are really easy to use. The Nuki app, however, certainly has a more premium feel. If I'm being honest, however, I do actually prefer the TT lock because I think everything is just there in one place and it's nice and simple and just done well. The same goes for the Apple Watch app. I actually think Nuki have probably gone for the feel over functionality a little bit. So then the other question we should say is, well, do you need the bridge for both of these? With the Nuki, I personally think Apple users can get away without the bridge thanks to the HomeKit integration. And that's because your Apple TV or your iPad or some kind of Apple product that's always at home will effectively act as a bridge for you. That will, however, only give you access to the status via the Apple Home app and not the Nuki app. If you're an Android user, you're certainly going to need that bridge. Additionally, if you want to use Google or Amazon voice assistants, you will need that bridge as well. For the Simpled one, I personally think the bridge is worth having as well. This is because you can keep an eye on it remotely and also see logs of who's accessed it. Of course, you can unlock it remotely if you need to give someone access as well. So all in all, what's the verdict between these two smart locks? And really, both the Simpled smart lock and the Ultion Nuki do the smart lock thing for multi-point doors in very different ways, but both do it very well. And of course, as you'd expect with any product, they both have their own disadvantages and advantages. For me, I think the Simpled, slightly more complicated installation process may put some people off, but with enough patience it can be done by an average DIYer such as myself. The Ultion Nuki, on the other hand, is super simple to install, although I do think, having used it for 6 months, actually the premium feel of the app compromises some of the functionality. When it comes to actually opening the door, I do think the Simpled one does it best. The fingerprint sensor in particular makes it super easy to gain access. And this is because you haven't got to open an app or something. It's also probably a better choice for things like Airbnbs because you can provide passcodes that expire to people. And of course these can be managed remotely as well. When it comes to picking which one is best, I personally think the Ultion Nuki is the better choice. And really this is because of the security credentials. It comes with a 3-star rated super secure cylinder, and then the Nuki boasts about its own security credentials as well, which is great. This as a consumer gives you real peace of mind when using the product. Now of course I've said in this video that the TT Lock app that works with the Simple one does have similar security credentials. However, Simple don't boast about any of this, and they don't talk about the actual security credentials of the handle and the lock itself. If you guys have got any questions, do stick them below and I'll answer those for you. I am going to do some comparison videos with the new locked smart lock as well at some point over the next few months. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you want to pick up any of the locks that I've talked about, I have put links below, as well as links to my individual reviews and my installation videos. I will see you guys again soon.